Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Let's give this man the proper introduction that he deserves. All right. Olympic gold medalist, 11-time world champion in 6 different weight classes, the first Mexican-American to become a world-renowned boxing promoter, the Golden Boy himself, Oscar De La Hoya.
What's up, brother?
How are you, champ? It's great to talk to you.
You're rivaling Michael Buffer there for a second. I mean, Jesus, great.
Listen, I went from journalist to public address announcer that wants to be a ring announcer. So if you need an understudy for Buffer, let me know. I am available. I am here in Southern California.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Listen, congratulations on what's going on. Golden Boy keeps blowing up, bigger and bigger. You know, the new deal with Fuse TV, El Rey, everything's going right for you. I remember back when you won the gold medal, and the first thing you did was buy yourself a Corvette and your dad his dream car, and then everything's been smooth sailing from there.
No, yeah, you know what's funny? I did get a Corvette. The Corvette was actually a gift from Chevrolet for winning the gold medal, and but I did buy my father a nice beautiful Chevrolet and Corvette, I believe it was, but yeah, man, times have changed. Time just goes by so fast. It's crazy. I was talking about the Olympics the other day with a buddy of mine, and my gosh, those memories are just incredible.
Yeah. Well, July's coming quick and the Olympics are coming fast, but you guys are moving even faster with everything going on in Golden Boy.
Yeah, we are. We're on a great run right now, and I've always said that. Look, we've been on a great run since I started Golden Boy 21 years ago, I believe it was. I want to make sure that we continue to make the big fights happen. To make the blockbuster events take place and for the fans, and so I'm going to keep chipping away and doing everything in my power to match up these young kids and give us the big mega fights. And it doesn't matter if it's from other promoters or other fighters that I don't promote. I'm going to keep beating that drum. We must make these big fights happen in order for boxing to continue to flourish and to grow and be at the level that it deserves.
Well, you're promoting not only boxing, but you're working with Combate Global MMA. You're also working with bare knuckle fighting. Excuse me. You're bringing in other aspects of the fight game and combat sports, which thankfully has returned to a notion of we need to learn how to defend ourselves, whether it's for sport or whether it's for real life in and of itself.
Well, look, I mean, one thing about boxing that boxing doesn't have, boxing is boxing, let's say, just doesn't have any barriers whatsoever. Boxing is global. Boxing, anybody and everybody can identify with the sport, with combat, with, whether it's taking up boxing at your local recreational center, taking it up because you want to feel confident about yourself, whether you taking it up because you want to maybe learn how to defend yourself. Boxing is a sport that is loved by everybody, whether you're rich or poor. Doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, where you come from. Inside that squared circle, there's no nationality, there's no age, there's no nothing. It's just one-on-one, and that's what life is. You got to tackle life and grab the bull by the horns, and that's exactly what combat sport is. It gives you the mental strength to take on whatever you want to take on.
Well, you've done it in your own life. You've done it in your post-fight career, and Golden Boy now working with Fuse and El Rey, bringing boxing to the masses yet again. Because initially it was ABC Wild World Sports. Before it was just on regular television,
right.
And then in the 80s with Tyson and yourself in the 90s and so on, the pay-per-view market. And here we are. We're still hungry for the fight game. There's still something in us that is driven for it. How exciting is it when it's cable television and El Rey and Fuse and bringing it to the masses yet again on a level that, yes, it does set up the pay-per-view for the bigger fights, but even these mid-grade fights, and we still get to watch them and watch combat come to life.
No, you're absolutely right, and this partnership with El Rey, with Robert Rodriguez, that was just so pleasant to put together, and it was a no-brainer because El Rey it has such a diverse and younger demographic, a younger audience, which we want to introduce boxing to. We want to introduce the history of Golden Boy, the history of boxing. My library consists of thousands and thousands of hours of content. The likes of Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, and we go way back, to the best fights in the business. So we want to make sure that we introduce to a younger demographic these types of events that took place, because you have fighters like Ryan Garcia, fighters now like Jake Paul, who are introducing boxing, today's boxing, to a young audience, to a younger demographic. My job and this partnership with El Rey and Robert Rodriguez is to introduce the historical part about boxing, the historical fights, the fighters that young kids today will never even hear of. But we want to make sure that through this channel, through this partnership, we can continue to supply content that these young kids would have never been introduced to, and start to learn about the culture, start to learn about the game, boxing, the fighters. I think it's pretty interesting.
So how far are we going? Because I know we still have some footage of Jack Johnson from the late 19th, early 20th century, and then some footage of Sugar Ray Robinson and Rocky Marciano. So how far are we going? Because, we only have limited content from those early eras, but we have so much from the 60s on.
Yeah, no, it all depends. I mean, my library goes back, 30 years of all the great biggest fights. When Castillo was robbed against Floyd Mayweather, for instance, we have that fight which we'll be showing on El Rey. But the beautiful thing about this partnership as well is that I own the Ring magazine, which goes back to 1920, and recently we made a documentary about the best middleweights in the history of boxing. And we included Bernard Hopkins, we included Sugar Ray Robinson, included Canelo, the new, the future, and the past. And so with that type of content as well, the Ring magazine content, we can create these documentaries for the younger generation to watch, to know about the historical, importance of boxing, not just inside the ring, but outside the ring. What boxing has done to cultures, what boxing boxing has been a gateway, for many generations. And I just strongly feel that this young generation that's going to be introduced to Golden Boy fights and to boxing in general is going to get a kick out of it, because, fighters like Ryan Garcia and Jake Paul today are superstars amongst that demographic. So we want to make sure that they just have a little taste of the past and how fighters were promoting themselves, how fighters like maybe a Ryan Garcia did exist, back in the 30s or 40s, maybe a Jake Paul did exist, back in the past. So we want to make sure we introduce that history to the younger generation.
Listen, man, if you ever need a narrator for any of those documentaries, I will make myself available. That's how much I love you and respect you and all your work that you've put forward.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah. As everything continues to grow, and, the shift has gone from, boxing being the sweet science to a multi-billion-dollar industry. And yet, like you said, you can pick it up at your local gym or back in the day at the Y And there is that distinct LA style, that Houston style, that Brooklyn style, that Chicago
Yeah.
style. You know, what's it like when you're as a matchmaker and you're making the fights come alive, going, okay, there's this Mexican style, but it's from Jalisco that will
Sure.
really fit in great with the San Antonio style over here, and we're going to make this match come alive.
No, and that's the beauty about boxing, that there's so many styles of fighting, and a lot of fans identify with certain styles, and it's pretty cool to match up fighters depending on their styles, like you mentioned, from Mexico, from Ireland, from the UK, from Japan. It's a lot of fun, actually, because you can almost dictate what the fight fan is watching. You play it out in your head because you know the styles. Okay, this guy's gonna bring an aggressive, in your face type of fight, and this guy's gonna maybe box a little. So it all depends on what we want to, show the paying audience. I think boxing is so unique where depending on who's on top in that particular moment. For instance, if Floyd Mayweather was the king of boxing at a certain era, then those young kids following right behind him are gonna embrace his type of style. So it's a huge influence in the industry. You have fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez in his era. All the kids behind him wanted to be like Chavez, and boxing became very exciting. So it all depends on who's on top in that particular moment. Myself in the 90s and 2000s, everybody wanted to have the De La Hoya style. And that's the unique part about boxing, is that it continues to evolve, it continues to grow, it's very diverse. There's nothing like boxing.
And then the weight classes, all the way from flyweight to heavyweight, and then Butterbean with the super heavyweights. You could see a heavyweight influence even on a featherweight, even though the featherweight might not be a knockout artist. But the bobbing of the head, the movement,
Sure.
We only have, like Bruce Lee said, we only have 2 hands and 2 legs, and that's what we're given to work with.
Right.
The psychology of the sport, and just the evolution that's going on with everything. And like you said, Ryan Garcia and how tremendous he is. Canelo is incredible. Triple G, everybody else, the El Rey, when they first started, they were doing lucha libre, and they did an incredible job of making a cinematic lucha libre.
Yeah.
Is there, in the documentary style, or what you're planning on doing with El Rey, a bit of that Robert Rodriguez cinematic style in its delivery leading up to the fights?
It's a possibility. I think now, showcasing the historical fights and educating the younger demographic, the young kids who are following boxing, who are following Ryan and Jake Paul. But eventually, I can see that happening and taking place. I strongly feel that as this partnership grows and continues to evolve, I can see it where it can morph into that type of like cinematographic style boxing, and who knows, we might even be doing live fights one day on El Rey. So it all depends on what the vision is. It depends on how this relationship goes, how successful it is. So yeah, we'll take it from there.
It's not lost on me that the Classic Fights series was launched on my birthday on Friday, May 3rd. So of course that added a bit of extra excitement for me. And now 21 years later, with it having been the 21st anniversary of Golden Boy launching on May 3rd in 2003, all this time and the specific dates, how important was it for people to know that, yes, in 2003, this was the date, and 21 years later, coming to full maturity, here we are working with Fuse and El Rey?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Cinco de Mayo weekend has always been a very, festive weekend, especially here in the U.S. Cinco de Mayo is really not celebrated in Mexico, except for like Puebla, where, La Batalla de Puebla took place. But yeah, it's very significant. It's very important that we remind we remind people how important the Cinco de Mayo weekend was, not just for Mexico and Puebla, but also for the sport of boxing. You know, Julio Cesar Chavez was a pioneer when it came to fighting on September 16, Mexican Independence Weekend. And then I came along and introduced Cinco de Mayo to fight fans across the world. And now it's celebrated like a national holiday. And if there's a fight, obviously it's a huge bonus for everyone. So yeah, it's important to make sure that the younger generation is aware, that the younger generation learns about the historical importance of these dates.
Oscar, I'm going to leave you with this because you've been so gracious in chatting with me today. Say I'm 11 years old and I'm interested in watching my very first fight. I've never watched boxing before. Yeah. What's the one fight do you recommend to that 11-year-old, whether it's based on brutality, technique, you know, right, brawler versus boxer, the sweet science itself? What's the one fight that you recommend for someone to start with?
I think any Manny Pacquiao fight. I think he was very electric and energetic, exciting to watch, a knockout artist. Manny Pacquiao versus Ricky Hatton is a good fight to watch. That's a good starter.
Awesome. Oscar De La Hoya, it is a pleasure to chat with you. I cannot wait to be ringside again to cover another Golden Boy Promotions event. Thank you so much for chatting with me today about working with El Rey. It's been absolutely tremendous.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. We'll see you soon then.